We're gathered today to talk about the notion that it's human instinct to care about something more just when it starts to vanish or after it has vanished. But the fact is, life has been vanishing around us for a long time. In our Coast Salish region, before Tokate and her family were trapped and taken from Penn Cove in 1970, southern resident orcapods were thriving in these waters. Last month, Tokate died in captivity. Now only 74 southern resident killer whales are left. Our Lummi friends tell us stories of their ancestors on these islands not being able to put their arms even halfway around most trees on the San Juans. Now our islands only have a few old growth forests remaining. Underwater seagrass meadows, which are better at sequestering carbon than rainforests, are disappearing at alarming rates. I could go on, but the more important point is that Friends of the San Juans has never waited for things to disappear before caring and protecting. We have been taking action to prevent the extinction of the things we love and the natural elements we rely upon. And we believe that you, our members, our volunteers, and our donors are here because you aren't the kind of people who will wait until something is gone before you appreciate it or fight for it too. From the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for that. Today, we're going to take 40 minutes to introduce you to some of the staff, the board, and partners that champion the cause with us. And you'll get a glimpse of some aspects of the work being done on your behalf and on behalf of the environment, with a deep dive into vessel traffic and oil spill impacts by Eva Schulte. Tina Whitman will tell you about shoreline science and restoration. And Jess Newley will share more about our immersive Salish Sea education program and more. We'll wrap up, we promise, at 5:40, and those that would like to stick around can join us for a Q&A. Just a reminder that you can drop a question into that Q&A tool at any time through the presentation. Some of the work you're going to hear about is done with grant money, but more than half of the work we do is done with money raised by or given by you. My name is Gailey, and I am part of the strategic communications team. I also donate 20 hours or more a month because I believe in this organization. That said, I'm honored to introduce Ken Carrasco, a retired biologist who resides on Orcas Island. Ken has had an illustrious career, but my first and favorite highlights are that he participated in research on the Exxon Valdez disaster for 2 years. And while in the U.S. Coast Guard before college, he was stationed aboard a polar icebreaker for 3 deployments, including 2 to the South Pole and 1 to the North Pole. I believe all of these things prepared him to be president of our board of directors. Ken?
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Ann. And on behalf of my fellow 12 directors of the Friends of the San Juans, welcome to all of you to our annual meeting on this beautiful afternoon. Ann mentioned my career, and I'd like to add that in midlife, I switched careers from the sciences to environmental education. Science is still hugely important to me, but from where I was at the time, it just wasn't enough. I felt compelled to engage in action, to take steps to make a direct difference. So I think it's no accident that I'm now in a leadership role with Friends, where action informed by science is recognized as crucial to restoring and protecting the Salish Sea. You'll hear from our staff and about our programs in a minute, but I did want to bring you up to date about our board of directors because we've made some really big changes over the last several years. We enlarged the board and added some wonderful and very capable people with diverse backgrounds who bring both their experience and their passion to the board. We have also created 2 new councils to advise Friends while we go forward. First, because we so value the wisdom and institutional memory of past board members, We created a council of strategic advisors composed of some past board presidents. Second, we created a council of scientific advisors who have expertise in critical areas, and they will help guide us so we can be more effective in our work on behalf of the Salish Sea. Needless to say, Friends leadership has been very busy this past year, and I want to personally thank our board, our councils, and advisory members for their hard work and commitment to this mission. Late last year, we needed to find a new executive director for Friends, and a board committee was formed to conduct a nationwide search. I'm thrilled that Eva Schulte agreed to join us. There are some amazingly strong candidates for this position, but both the committee and the full board were unanimous that Eva was the best of the best. And since her start in early April, she has more than met our expectations. Eva comes to us with a long track record in the social sector at the intersection of environmental protection, social justice, higher education, and community organizing. It's a real pleasure to introduce Eva to you, and I hope you get to personally meet her in the near future. And again, on behalf of the board of directors, the Friends of the San Juans, welcome. And we invite you to join us in our efforts to protect and restore the islands and the Salish Sea. Join us in protecting what we love. Thank you, and I'll pass the baton over to our new executive director, Eva Schulte.
Thank you, Ken. I am thrilled too. I love my job here at Friends of the San Juans, and I'm grateful to have joined the mission here and to be with you here today, our members, our friends, to make our work possible. As you saw earlier in the chat, we have dozens of people joining us from all over our bioregion, state, country, and even transboundary Southern Gulf Islands. Shout out to those people in Birch Bay too, and Bellingham. Our representation makes us powerful, and this annual gathering is an opportunity to share across all of our communities. At Friends, we are bonded by our commitment and relationship to the islands and Salish Sea. Do you like our madrona tree backdrop here behind us? It shows the beauty of each distinct color and texture coming together and held in by one tree. But we know the madrona does not stand alone. Like Friends of the San Juans, madronas choose where to stand, and they choose where lands meet the sea. They watch us over generations as they grow with their branches, with the winds and the tides, and with purpose. They live an average of 225 years. We haven't had quite as much staying power as a madrona tree, but our issue work will. The work that you support through your membership and commitment will carry forward. For 44 years, Friends of the San Juans has been thinking with you and decision makers about our future. And as a result, we have protected what we love. From shorelines that would otherwise have been developed and inaccessible for people and nature, to shaping effective land use to build in our urban growth areas, where I live now in Friday Harbor, so that places like Limekiln State Park still hold hundreds of madrona trees instead of parcel condominiums. When I started my role as top priority, our dedicated Friends Board of Directors wisely tasked me with conducting a listening tour. Wow, was this fun. Since April, I have traveled around the islands and the bioregion, having meaningful conversations with staff, donors, board directors, and strategic advisors. I learned a lot on these visits across the Salish Sea and to locations even as far as Comox on Vancouver Island and Portland, Oregon, to visit Bruce Rylander. In the past 2 months, we had over 200 people attend events on San Juan, Shaw, Lopez, and Orcas. To see you and to connect with you was a great joy for all of us here on the team. I've been learning that each island holds its own unique character, which is important to know, and also spirit. To really see our work and share it with others, we chartered 3 boat trips to Schulte Island just in the month of September. We have been busy. We immersed ourselves in the lands and waters that we all love, learning about our large-scale shoreline restoration project at Mud Bay. 117 friends joined us on those boat tours, many of you. And last week was a special highlight on Lopez Island. With our boots on, we strolled to Fisherman's Bay Spit with Governor Inslee. Governor Jay Inslee joined with Jim and Berta Falconer to experience how community-based partnerships are making a difference in restoring habitats. We're especially committed to showing up as friends and allies when Coast Salish tribes invite us. Friends of the San Juans has been asked to serve as a fiscal agent and logistic and tech support on the islands. We do so, and we are honored to do so, sharing many meals over the canoe journeys. And we also were honored recently, as you heard when we began, to be present to support the celebration of life for Tokate, Shali Choctanut, led by Lummi Nation and other Coast Salish tribes. During my listening tour, we brought together our new science advisors to connect with our staff and board. Science advisor Dr. Drew Harvell, whose book, kid you not, I just finished very early this morning, reminds us that when it comes to resident killer whales, ecosystems, and eelgrass, we must focus on protection, not just restoration. Because when we lose something, it's hard to get it back. That's why with Cornell University and Friday Harbor Labs, Friends is mapping eelgrass so we can identify the most resilient of eelgrass beds and protect them. We also know, thanks to another science advisor, Dr. Valviers, that over half of the underwater noise that is impacting our orca whales' ability to efficiently hunt for salmon is attributed to just 15% of the loudest vessels in the Salish Sea. Did you catch that? Over half the underwater noise attributed to just 15% of the loudest vessels. Guess what? We can change this. And we're actively working with partners to advocate for these much needed fixes. As you know, because you're a Friends member, science and research are necessary and they lead us to action. We are highlighting 3 Friends of the San Juans priorities today. First is my deep dive into our work to curb the exponential growth of vessel traffic in the Salish Sea. Are you ready? Here's our first deep dive. So I was 13 when I remembered watching the Exxon Valdez spill on TV. I couldn't stop staring at the images of the delicate seabirds smothered in oil and sludge at Prince William Sound in Alaska. It was devastating. And just 13 years ago, we all watched the disaster of the Deepwater Horizon oil rig that took 11 human lives and gushed 4.9 million barrels of oil into the sea for 87 days. It would not stop, and it forever extinguished the surrounding marine life. Unfortunately, oil catastrophes keep happening, and they won't stop unless we prevent them. There are so many reasons I joined the team here at Friends of the San Juans, but one of the most compelling to me was our leadership on vessel traffic. Friends of the San Juans is a defender of the Salish Sea. All ships represent risks of accidents and oil spills because of the propulsion fuel they carry. That's why we engage with any project that can increase vessel traffic and oil spill risk. We know that vessel traffic in and of itself increases the decline and threats to southern resident killer whales due to noise, due to their own presence, due to gross discharge and air and water pollution. We started our marine protection and vessel traffic work over 10 years ago, and we continue to this day, engaging the Coast Guard on a regular basis and activating your membership, each of you, to engage with action alerts and solutions. When necessary, we bring our legal and policy strength to help solve problems. We watch over refinery and terminal projects, and when we have an opportunity to engage in the environmental review process, we do so. We are protectors, and we're highly concerned about projects like the Trans Mountain Pipeline and Roberts Bank Terminal 2 expansions. How many of you have been following this? It will increase Canadian-bound vessel traffic by more than 20% above already high levels from just last year. We're concerned because all vessels carry propulsion fuel, and the bigger the vessel, you guessed it, the more the fuel. Our savvy new board directors bring important transboundary expertise and advocacy experience. So Natalie Beloy reminded me that this 20% increase over last year means 2 to 4 additional vessels every day will be going across the Salish Sea, and that means 2 to 4 more risks of spills each day. Matt Crow reminds us that the huge increase in trans-mountain expansion tankers will carry dilbit, which is uniquely problematic in oil spills because there is no effective response for the combination of diluent and bitumen. I'm still learning about this, honestly, but basically it means that any amount of spill is devastating because a very light diluent separates from the very heavy bitumen and it sinks to the seafloor, covering some of our most important habitat forever. Even the easy to clean up spills only address about 5% of the spill. We have to focus on prevention. Ultra large container ships carry millions of gallons of propulsion fuel. The larger vessels we see on the Salish Sea can hold 18,000 20-foot long containers. You know those big containers? You see them, they're huge. 18,000 of those big, giant 20-foot long containers. And these vessels are carrying 4.5 million gallons of propulsion fuel just to move along. The Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project is over 90% constructed and could be operational in early 2024, which will increase oil tanker traffic by 696 transits per year. Unfortunately, this past week, British Columbia approved the Port of Vancouver's new 267-acre offshore and overwater concrete terminal. Offshore overwater concrete. It's the size of 150 football fields, an artificial concrete island, and it's less than a mile from the US border. It was approved despite a multi-year process that identified major environmental harms and 300 required ways to mitigate it, and it also identified habitat destruction of an estuary that supports over 100 species that are at risk of vanishing. What does Roberts Bay Terminal 2 do? It adds 520 new container ship transits each year, 520. And it accommodates ultra large container vessels. Those are way bigger than what I've already described, that will carry millions of gallons of propulsion fuel. These enormous ships will cut across our island communities, including our tight turns and our many rocks. Can you imagine? You won't have to for long. If you look at these images, the new vessels it boasts will have no tug escort while on the Salish Sea. The Port of Vancouver is anticipating the size of these ships increasing even more in the future. And it's advertising this as an advantage in its effort to market to industry partners for construction. We're grateful to Lummi Nation for their opposition of Roberts Bay Terminal 2, and we're highly concerned about projects that affect Coast Salish tribes, their lands and waters without their consent or consultation as sovereign nations. They have led for millennia in their care for the Salish Sea. Friends of the San Juan started our opposition of Roberts Bay Terminal 2 project in 2015. It's dangerous. And Canada's own impact assessment agency said it could create irreparable harm to endangered species. There is no quantity of offsets that can replace the southern residents if they vanish. This artificial and rectangular concrete island juts out into precious marine waters and salmon habitat by the mouth of the Fraser River, with irreversible environmental impacts that include threats to the survival of southern residents and wild salmon. The Fraser River is one of the primary life forces, as many of you hear on Dr. Tina Whitman's beach tours, in the ecological functioning of the Salish Sea. At minimum, BC must mitigate this project and the government of Canada is responsible since saltwater is under federal jurisdiction. There are 300 conditions on the original proposal, but they're not enough. Roberts Bay must require dedicated emergency response towing vessels for the Haro Strait Boundary Pass region with firefighting capabilities. Roberts Bank must ensure all container ships participate in voluntary slowdowns so that they do not hit marine mammals or rocks due to speed. And 3, they must and need to be accredited as quiet so that southern resident killer whales can still communicate and hunt. And finally, they must prohibit the use of heavy fuel oil for all container ships. That tar-like fuel can have significant environmental damage and also economic and cultural impacts when spilled. We continue to engage on vessel traffic issues, and we will not give up at Friends of the San Juans. In our defender role, we will partner with US and Canadian conservation groups. For example, Rain Coast Conservation Foundation is asking insurance companies, and we're working with them to stop insuring these dangerous projects. If you are concerned, motivated as a protector, or want to learn more about our vessel traffic work, we're recruiting volunteers to work with our talented team, Marine Protection and Policy Director Lovell Pratt and Legal Director James McCubbin, to explore how Friends can have a big impact in defending our island communities in Salish Sea. Our work at Friends and our contribution to marine conservancy with our partners would not be effective without scientists on our team. Tina, I already mentioned you, but I want to say a little more. She has 30 years of experience in place-based conservation and serves on multiple San Juan County and salmon recovery boards. She works statewide to inform shoreline science, and in the last month, her Friends of the San Juans work has taken her to 7 islands in the Coast Salish region. We appreciate that commitment, Tina, and all you do with the rest of our dynamic Friends of the San Juans team and board. Take it away on our second dive.
Great. Thanks so much, Eva, and thanks everyone for joining us. I was fortunate to spend the first 20 years of my life on Martha's Vineyard Island in New England, and now I've been fortunate to live on Orcas Island for the next 20. I feel most at home in the islands where a strong sense of place and a connection to the environment are such an integral part of our community. After 20 years as Friends Science Director, I've learned that here in the San Juans, our marine shorelines are our community's superpower, and I'm so lucky that it's my job to help keep them healthy. Did you know that if our 400 plus miles of marine shoreline were stretched out along I-5, they would reach from Eugene, Oregon to Vancouver, British Columbia? This concentration of marine shorelines are what makes the San Juans so unique for people and for nature. Here's a fun illustration that my coworker, Catherine Dietzman, Friends Science and Education Coordinator, made of our food web. Our shorelines are an essential part of the base of the marine food web that moves all the way up to the southern resident killer whales and humans too. Our beaches and eelgrass meadows, where forage fish like herring, surf smelt, and sand lance lay their eggs, these little fish feed the salmon, the seabirds, the marine mammals. Over the past 20 years, Friends has documented and increased protections for over 100 forage fish spawning beaches, eelgrass and bull kelp habitats, and coastal forests. As we all know, these shorelines are critical habitat for the baby salmon that come to our islands from rivers across the Salish Sea. And they're also essential feeding habitat for seabirds who fly daily from their nests in old-growth forests on the Olympic Peninsula and on Vancouver Island to catch a mouthful of fish to feed their chicks. I could go on, but you get the idea of how productive our local shorelines are. Like we like to say here at Friends, southern resident killer whales need salmon, salmon need forage fish, and forage fish need healthy beaches. Today, we are excited to be spearheading a comprehensive 20-year health assessment of eelgrass. In collaboration with Drew Harvell and her team of eelgrass disease researchers from Cornell and Friday Harbor Labs, along with eelgrass experts from the Washington Department of Natural Resources, we are taking a closer look at eelgrass habitat to understand the distribution and depths across the county, most importantly, how they've changed over the last 20 years, and also integrating and looking at what role eelgrass wasting disease might be playing in the declines we're seeing. In addition to remapping eelgrass using towed underwater video, we've had the good fortune to be out collecting eelgrass plants through snorkel surveys with labs researchers and community science volunteers. Plants from 10 sites on San Juan, Orcas, Lopez, Shaw, and Waldron are being analyzed for disease as part of this county-wide eelgrass trend assessment. Unfortunately, seagrasses have been struggling globally as well as here in the San Juans, and eelgrass wasting disease is just one part of the complex puzzle. This research project, this collaborative effort that builds off our earlier mapping efforts that Friends completed in 20 years ago, will help us to identify where are those resilient places that are the most important to protect and conserve. So please stay tuned for our research results in the coming winters. Using research projects like these, we work from science to action, protecting and restoring. In the past 15 years, we've led close to 20 shoreline restoration projects with a suite of fantastic partners such as Washington State Parks, the San Juan County Land Bank, the Tulalip tribes, many local contractors, and many, many dedicated private landowners. Restoration actions have removed roads and bulkheads, unburying the beaches below to support forage fish. We've removed overwater and toxic structures from eelgrass to allow the light and the clean water that these flowering plants need to thrive. We've removed culverts to reconnect tidal waters and the species that inhabit them with coastal wetlands. In 2020, at our Susha Salt Marsh Restoration Project that you're viewing right now, it was amazing to witness the high tides come into the marsh. It had been nearly 100 years since the tide had been able to flow freely, once those last bits of the road, culvert, and armor had been removed. And just this month, we removed 225 feet of a creosote bulkhead and many, many, many dump truck loads of fill from a beach on nearby Shaw Island. Sand and gravel beach nourishment will be placed soon, and we'll plant dune grass with the island's Conservation Corps crews in a few weeks. And looking forward, we're on track to restore 4 more beaches by 2025. While we are grateful for the restoration, or the state, for the state and federal grants that fund these restoration projects, my point here is that these projects would not be possible without the support of you, our members. In addition to restoration, here at Friends of the San Juans, we also work hard to protect the intact, healthy places using policy, permit review and enforcement of existing laws, and of course, using education. A key part of protecting shorelines in our community is empowering residents as stewards. Towards that end, we have completed expert site visits with more than 450 waterfront property owners, and we've reached thousands more with direct mailings, workshops, and events. And many, many of these owners have taken actions to protect and restore their own properties. So our superpower shorelines, located in the heart of the Salish Sea, support these stunning habitats and creatures, but also our very identity as a community of islands. These special places are also a good reminder that things can vanish if you don't pay attention, if you don't actively work to understand and protect them. I am proud to be a part of Team Friends, our skilled staff, board, members, and supporters like you that work on action based on science. The strength of our approach is that we do the science and the people work, because as we all know, it's people who make the decisions. Because engaging people is an integral part of the Friends mission, I am so honored to work with and introduce our Community Science and Education Director, Jess Newley. Jess has been scuba diving in the waters of the Salish Sea for 10 years. She created Friends of the San Juan's immersive Salish Sea education program. This program takes students underwater, allows them to access the beauty and challenges that exist below the surface, and inspires youth to show up for the environment. Some of you may have worked with Jess on community science projects, such as the forage fish spawn surveys, and also looking for the invasive European green crabs. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jess. Take it away, Jess.
Thanks, Tina. Hello, everyone. I'm the Community Science and Education Director at Friends. Since starting here in 2018, I've found myself in one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had, getting to work with some of the most wonderful creatures. For example, some of my teammates you've met here tonight, and others that are doing hard work behind the scenes, like these crazy creatures shown here during our last staff retreat. Our backyard, the Salish Sea, is filled with not only the most beautiful and unique wildlife, but some of the most precious habitat, as Tina was explaining. It hosts shelter and feeding ground that so much depends on, including forage fish, salmon, orcas, and people too. Speaking of people, did you know that the water around the San Juan Islands was never ceded in the 1855 Point Elliott Treaty? The land was, but the water wasn't. That means that the time that we spend in the water or on the water, boating, kayaking, fishing, paddleboarding, whatever your passion is, we are privileged to do that. It also means that the work we do here at Friends to protect and restore these special marine resources is ever more important to hold up those promises made back in 1855, like Anne mentioned in the beginning tonight. I love that I get to share and use my passion for scuba diving and underwater photography as a way to educate and immerse others in the beauty of what lies beneath the surface. My passion for scuba has taken me to places all over the world, like Egypt, Mozambique, Tahiti, and of course, back here to my Salish Sea home. I have witnessed vanishing coral reef systems and disappearing mangrove forests. And when left to its natural state, I've also come to see and know our ocean as one of the most resilient and powerful forces on this planet. By being proactive in the face of what's vanishing, much like the theme here tonight, with eyes, ears, and hearts paying attention, these special ecosystems that we all know and love can thrive when given the chance. Here I am underwater right in our backyard, one of my favorite places to dive in the kelp forest off San Juan Island on the west side. I'm so lucky that part of my job here at Friends is to connect local students with our marine food web, exploring under the surface with the use of virtual reality headsets. This is actually this week at Spring Street International School. I've recorded countless hours of footage beneath the surface. And here's a clip of what the students see under the water with the virtual reality headsets on. In 360, you can look up and down and all around you as if you were there yourself. This is a huge school of Pacific herring, also from the west side here on San Juan Island in Deadman's Bay. And here's one of my favorite parts. Listen to the students' reactions while they're viewing the footage. I can't even tell you how heartwarming and fulfilling it is to hear their excitement.
Oh, look at the ground. Look at the rocks.
Oh, there's a shrimp down there.
Whoa. Oh. Oh, wow. Look at her go.
Yes, all that excitement to be able to see and experience a place that they've never been before. When we go into the classroom, we talk about the marine food web and all its connections, and then students get to experience it themselves through virtual reality. It's really amazing. We also take them to the beach to do hands-on science, and of course, end our time together, giving them the tools and resources to take action themselves. Our immersive Salish Sea education program is in its third year of operating in high school science classes around the islands, and over 400 students have participated in the multi-day program. It inspires me every day that youth of all different demographics and backgrounds get to experience what it's like to swim with salmon or school of herring, just as I did all over the world. I also get to mentor high school students in the Friday Harbor Eco Club. Last year, we got to resume our in-person visits to Olympia, and we took 8 enthusiastic students to meet legislators and learn the ins and outs of how a bill is lobbied for, voted on, and passed through the House and Senate floors. One of them told me that the most valuable thing about being a part of the Eco Club is being able to understand problems in our community and possible ways to make solutions. Students need hope. They need the emotional connection alongside the numbers and facts they learn in school. They need agency, empowerment, and the knowledge that not only is our backyard worth protecting, but their voice matters and they do make a difference. I also get to work with adults like you in our community science and education programs. For many years, we had a fantastic team of volunteers helping us search for forage fish eggs on our beaches. Currently, community science volunteers are helping us look for eelgrass wasting disease, doing snorkel surveys like Tina talked about, and doing beach blitzes to search for invasive European green crab molts on the shoreline. This winter, we'll be partnering with the Washington Department of Ecology to look for PFA toxins off the west side of San Juan Island and other locations. And to do this, we'll put cages with mussels out in the water at specific locations and then retrieve these cages 3 months later. These mussels are then tested for contaminants. Lastly, we are planning to begin monitoring plastic pollution on our beaches by collecting data during our beach cleanups. You can sign up at sanjuans.org if you're interested in joining our team of community scientists, and we'd definitely love to have you. So as you immerse yourself in our work this evening, immerse yourself in all the beauty and precious habitat that surrounds us every day, along with hope and the motivation to make a difference. Thank you for the support of our education and community science programs, along with all the critical work we do here at Friends. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Eva.
So fun, Jess. I have been a beneficiary of all the great community science projects. I try to say yes every time Jess invites me to join. And it's an adventure. I hope you enjoyed the swims today by Zoom. And we're motivated by the literal deep dive we just saw from Jess. And maybe the not so literal, but deep dive I shared on vessel traffic and Tina shared on shoreline restoration. They were designed just for you, our members, to connect you more deeply to our work. And I have noted great comments in the chat. So if you want everyone to see them, just go ahead and scroll down and click everyone. Otherwise, our hosts and panelists will see them and certainly follow up. Please do stay tuned for more from Friends and watch for updates in the coming month, including our year-end impact report. I'm so thrilled to announce today that, again, for many years and running, Friends of the San Juans received the highest overall recognition of platinum transparency by Candid. For those of you less familiar with Candid, it's a global entity that tracks 1.8 million nonprofits and how well they care for donations and accomplish their goals. So our highest score there is a big deal, and it's thanks to you, and it's thanks to all of our great teams. This is a big deal for us and not a surprise. You can dive deep on our impacts by following the link in Candid, and I think that's being shared by Shannon Davis, our Deputy Director, in the chat. Thank you for your membership this year, and for longtime members, for your continued membership renewals. It means so much to us. Our 45th anniversary is right around the corner, and we're planning a party, another one, so stay tuned. The work we do every day prepares us for the next 4 decades ahead. And just, by the way, I want to go off script just here a bit to say last night my daughter came home and told me at dinner that she was going to do a genius project and had to choose people to interview. And she's going to interview Friends of the San Juans team members. It really shows how, for a little one, for people in the community, our Friends of the San Juans team shows up. My daughter, like so many of you, see our committed board and our talented team showing up where they are most needed, as champions for people and nature. Some staff have served as long as 20 years, others for 5, and new leaders have contributed greatly already in their tenures. I am honored to have joined such a dynamic team, and our team is actively looking right now, so we're looking at your names, to recruit and grow our base of volunteers. Maybe you have a snorkel and want to participate in a community science project, or you're great at responding to timely action alerts, or maybe you have some time to help out our awesome operations and giving teams through office projects or our new fund development committee chaired by Joe Cohen. Join us. Let us know your volunteer interests by emailing friends@sanjuans.org. And now Ann Gailey will take us on our final swim. Ann?
Thank you, Eva and team. Your leadership inspires us to do so much more. And thank you to Jen Strongen and Jess Newley for their wonderful photos we used tonight. To our members and donors, thank you for making this work possible. Again, over half of our finances and budget come from members, which helps us advance our mission. You are part of our superhero team, and this upcoming year, our 45th anniversary, we are counting on you more than ever. We are asking every member to recruit one new member or more if you want. By the way, we define member as anyone who contributes financially or with 4 or more hours a month of volunteer time. And I can attest to volunteering with this group, and it is a great way to volunteer, do something worthwhile while making friends who really add meaning to the world around you. Also volunteering or being a member, that might look like sharing our monthly newsletter for us, High Watermarks. It's a pretty cool one. We could ask you to bring a friend to an event, or you could share one of the helpful links from the chat. You can also reach out to us at friends@sanjuans.org. Helping us grow will help us protect more forests, farms, and sea. So we will thank you in advance for all of that help. We promised we wouldn't keep you longer than 40 minutes, and we're holding to that. If you would like to stick around, you can join us for a brief Q&A. Otherwise, thank you and see you at the next Friends event.